Extraordinaires. Now's the time to share. Yeah. Extraordinaires. We're all extraordinaires.
Hello, greetings extraordinaires. Hello again, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching on YouTube, massive hello to you. In fact, before we do kick off today's episode, I just wanted to give an extra special shout out to some of my international listeners. I've seen some stats come in and I'm so thrilled that I want to say a big hello to my fans in Dublin, Ireland. I'm super chuffed that you're listening there. I've always had such a cracking good time in Dublin. My grandfather is actually from County Cork, so I have Irish blood, and I wanted to give a big hearty hello to all of you in Dublin. Also back home to you in Australia, thanks so much for listening. Kiss that sacred soil for me, won't you? I miss it so much, especially if you're family. Hello, Mum. Thanks for being here. I know you're all right in the middle of some COVID catastrophe right now, so I'm sending you all my love and support. And to my pod fans here in the United States, I see you watching there in Seattle, Washington, in Chino Hills, in Columbus, Ohio, in Boynton, Virginia. Thanks so much for your support. It really means the world to me that I'm connecting with you in this way, that you're allowing me to connect with you in this way. I really would love to get to know you all better. So feel free to drop me a message at Extraordinaires Podcast, either on Instagram or on Facebook. And other than that, if you're watching on YouTube, why don't you drop me a line in the comments on YouTube. I would love it if you talk to me about the kinds of stories that you'd most like to hear, things that you know in your neighborhood that are going on that are extraordinary, people who are doing extraordinary things with their world, who are extraordinary storytellers. Let's get them on the show, introduce me. I'd love to share their greatness with the rest of the listeners. Because, without you, I'm just really sitting here like a Nigel no mates. So talk to me, Goose. We have a top show for you today. It's all about the art of relationships, the very subtle art of relationships. P.S., how are yours doing? I would hazard a guess that all of our relationships are in some way being tested right now. Am I right? My gosh. 2020 can fuck off. 2020. But it's really put us in a lot of alien kind of strain. And that strain results in us feeling removed from our relationships or in isolation from some relationships. And then other relationships, we're just overdosing on them. We can't get away from them. We're stuck in those same four walls. And we have to deal with the stresses that this situation puts upon all of our relationships. All of our edges are a bit frayed. Our nerves are definitely getting gotten on. Maybe your little passive-aggressive smart ass is proving quick to react and pass blame. It happens. Not to me, just asking for a friend, obviously. It's all in. It's all in and it's all okay. It's a whole new world that we're dealing with in relationships here. And a lot of today's conversation will be focused through the lens of the relationship that we have with our chosen partners, which is why my dearly beloved Wil Traval, our beloved husband, is joining me as co-host today. I love you. Thank you so much for being here. Don't speak yet. We're doing the introduction. You'll have your turn. We may be in a contraction right now, but we could also look at it as an opportunity to expand and to grow and to learn about how to be better allies to ourselves and better allies to our partners, our beloveds, our family. So what makes a great relationship? Well, in my mind, it's communication, it's connection, it's authenticity, it's a willingness to reveal yourself to another person and then to see that person with compassion and with understanding, to lay yourself bare in front of someone else and to be loved is just the most wonderful thing. But it's work. It takes daily practice. And I think we could all use some tools to do this better. Divorce is way up. Domestic violence is way up. So we might need a little bit of help. And so I'm hoping that these two people who are my guests today will be able to offer that to you. This couple has made it their life's work and their passion to help other couples deepen their relationships with each other, and to thrive in relationship with each other. There's so much that I could say about these two, but I think I'm going to just share their bio with you because it's so beautifully written and it explains them perfectly. So here's what they have to say about themselves, and I wholeheartedly concur. Rono and Sierra are often described as a dynamic duo and a transformational force who have dedicated their life's work to supporting women and couples in awakening their highest potential and realigning their North Star to create powerful evolutions in life, love, and spirituality. Rono and Sierra share over 30 years of adventure together as friends, as business partners, as lovers, as husband and wife, as change agents, as ceremony facilitators, as pleasure provocateurs, and as ambassadors of fun. Rono and Sierra are known for creating extraordinary experiences and powerful containers to catalyze one's dreams and desires. Oh, yes, please. As curators of magic and mischief, they have a knack for magnetizing high-frequency, conscious people who seek playful and profound experiences in which to enrich their lives. And they are currently doing just that with the creation of Eden World. This is the first of its kind, and we're going to hear all about it. It's a membership club and a highly curated event series for committed, visionary couples to evolve their relationship. I mean, how great is that? The intro, I want to start with welcoming my dearly beloved, who has gathered here unto me today, Wil Traval. It's his first time here on the podcast.
I don't know where I'm looking.
As far as...
That's why you can tell I'm a virgin.
Oh, God. Really? That's what's been going on.
Okay.
I wish you told me
I'm just
sooner.
looking in the wrong area. You just point to where you want me to look. That's how it works, isn't it?
Oh, really?
You usually have to do a lot more than looking.
The two that I want to introduce next are Rono and Sierra, two people who are such great guides when it comes to, deepening relationships, learning about how to deepen your relationship, how to be better in relationship in regards to the relationship with yourself. And they've joined us here today to talk about what would you know about relationships. Yay, welcome. There's applause happening right
There's a lot of crowd. Yeah, take a bow.
Oh my goodness. Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Good to be here.
I'm honored that you should come and share with our viewers about what maybe people are having difficulties with at the moment, which is their relationships. My idea was that, I know that, whether you're alone and don't have a relationship, in some respects that might actually be a bit of a blessing.
No, I honestly heard on the news today that people who are single are dealing with COVID better than people who are in an unhealthy or perhaps rocky relationship.
Right?
So.
And then, like you say, even good relationships are strained, where so in each other's pockets and there's so much tension about, money and what's next and whatever. So relationships are really an issue right now. And the relationships really are the thing that are going to pull us through. The love that we share with each other and the connection. So that's where you come in, because you've dedicated your lives to deepening relationships between people. What would be your thoughts for people right now, about how they can possibly deal with some of these issues that are going on, and divorce is up and domestic violence is up, and, what's some words of solace you can share with some people who have gone through it?
I I think the easiest thing to do is quarantine yourself in individual rooms and just don't speak to each other. That's what's worked for us.
It is, right?
Well,
We've actually been locked in our love shack on the lake, which is like one room. We have other buildings and stuff, but this is like our main little abode, and it's been awesome for us. And so, what would you say has been what supported us?
well, I would say not too far off from what you said, but not quite that extreme. I would use one word, which is space, right? Space is key. And in a quarantine, when you don't think you have that space, or you've gotten your mindset that you don't have that space, then you may not know to create it. And there are ways to create it. And for us, creating space whenever we're crunchy or on top of each other is important. Like, for example, we spend one night a week where he sleeps in a different bed. And that is conscious and intentional to give us a space. Because he and I, pre-COVID, during COVID, we spend all of our time together. So
Same.
We spend a lot of time, right? You guys are very in a similar boat.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get in routines. It's easy to get in habits, even if they're new routines and habits, because people are home from work and now it's a new dynamic. You probably start off the first couple of weeks, wow, this is great. And then you get into it. And then all of a sudden you realize that, oh, this isn't so great because all of the things that we weren't looking at in our relationship are now in my face. And you have to deal with them. Just like, as you mentioned, the parents are having such a hard time because their kids are there 24/7. They don't have a break. Mommy this, mommy that, daddy this, daddy that. And so the relationship's really the same way, except because we go to work or we have jobs or we go out of the house and then come back, we don't often get to hear those little children inside of us that are screaming mommy and daddy and then trying to work it out in the relationship. So it's no wonder that divorce is on the rise and everything else. And as you mentioned, Will, bad relationships are having a challenge. So space is key in creating the space, because one of our teachers many, many years ago said, if you want to have more passion and more love in your relationship, pull yourselves apart from each other, especially after sex, when you want to cuddle the most, like that, now go sleep in separate beds. And it like grows the attraction and the desire to be with one another because it pulls that energy apart from itself. And so
versus where it can collapse or meld with each other and get too comfortable and stagnant.
So that would be one thing, is create the space. Even if you have a small little house, how can you change it up?
Even in a household too, like when you have kids,
We
you
do
can do
sleep
that.
separate often.
Do we? We don't.
My wife snores like you wouldn't believe. So
If I can get a blanket in edgewise, gee, it's
So yes, there is the occasional nights where I'm like, ciao.
Tell me. You didn't even know.
we didn't even
Both of us
plan
are
it.
red as beets right now.
Isn't that funny? Like, whoa, hey. It does get really confusing though, because sometimes when you're in a relationship, the things that were the smallest thing that you thought that you'd be able to overlook for the next 60 years in these situations, not looking at you, just talking about a friend, are the things that just turn into these massive issues. And the things that you fell in love with them the most, you end up taking for granted in some aspects. I think that's what people are coming up against, you know, even the best relationships. So, I mean, let's say, for example,
Or your friend Mike.
Being invited on this, I didn't know that this would happen. So
it wasn't the express purpose of it. But like, what are the tools then? Like, if you are in each other's pockets and you are having issues, then like. The thing that you teach so well are tools for communication and how you actually pause in that moment and go, hold on a second, all my shit and past and history is coming up to meet your old past and history. So we've been, trying really hard to use the tools that you've been, sharing with us to take a moment, right?
Re-examine our languages.
Re-examine the language. Take away the
it's
blame.
all like the minutiae of going, oh, here are all the things. And as you said before, like without this magnifying glass of isolation, you wouldn't really see it, or because you get to go away and disappear into work or whatever and come back. But yeah, it's all this minutiae of going, that stuff might niggle or can cause greater fissures. So we're busy with like the tools of successful relationships as being the spackle to fill all the gaps.
So on Spackle, what are some of your communication tools then? Like in that moment, if someone's just about to throw a plate at someone's head,
We're definitely talking about Mike now.
Definitely talking about Mike. This is,
That's...
what's something that someone could take with them and go, okay, I'm gonna try that on for size for a moment and see if we can move through this difficult moment.
You want to go with your first
then we'll do yours.
All right.
This is a newer one that we've been playing with, and we're actually bringing it into our corporate business structure as well, and I'm going to start using it there. But it's super simple of red, yellow, green. Green means totally cool, yellow means caution, and red means stop. And
seems simple enough.
Why we like
We've already been talking. tools.
Why we like this tool so much, instead of saying stop or you're getting a little bit too much for me.
Yeah.
Those
Mike.
Words, yeah.
at least for me and her, we tend to, if it's got some fervor with it, it tends to raise up my energy, and then the next thing you know, it's too late. And so if it's like yellow, it's just a word, it's just a color.
Yeah.
Yellow, I know that I'm entering into dangerous territory.
Do you say that out loud in the moment?
Yeah, just
Yellow.
Yellow.
Just yellow. And yellow is really the one that you want to practice the most, because green is like
green. You don't really need to say green. It's
Yep.
go until it's not.
But you might need to. She could be like blah 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 blah, but like green, like
Yeah.
That's never going to happen, by the way. It's not. Okay.
Currently green. Right?
Green? Okay,
You're
green.
green.
Great.
You're green.
and I usually do.
You did a good green to me today.
Yeah, I did a great green to her
Yeah.
today,
When
because
I
she was a little snarky on a voice memo that she
Mhm.
sent to me. Because one of the ways that we create space is I have a separate office, so now during the day I'm working in a separate building.
Clever.
And she sent me a voice text, and over the weekend we were this is one of our new tools, and she said, if I'm being snarky with you, instead of being snarky back, can you encourage my snarkiness?
Mhm.
And so she sent me the task, and I was like, the voice text, and I was about to be like, and if you could be a little bit less snarky, and then I was like, oh wait, I remembered. And I said, and I love how snarky you just sent that.
Bring it.
And then I hung up.
That was great. I was like, yeah.
And so what did that do for the two of you? It changed both of your habits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You call it is it the judo flip or the kung fu flop? What do you call it?
Yes, answer's yes.
The judo flip, where you take the energy that's coming at you and flip it back around.
And use it. Yeah, right.
Use it.
And use it for your gain. But it was awesome, because had he come back snarky with me, I would have then snarked back.
And it was
and then
just
it
our snarky would
escalated,
have
right?
just kept
I
going.
escalated. Instead, I was like, oh yeah, he wants me to bring it. That's great.
Well, then it becomes a game, doesn't it? It's like fun.
Yeah.
That would have
And
been
we've also
useful.
been playing with that energy as well, just in general, like her intensity, instead of any of us squashing it down, how can we let it flow and create a space for it to flow? A lot of it is about space for us, and we'll get into another tool. What were you going to say?
No, it's like I'm saying that because that sense of judo of like taking the energy and using it and redirecting it is a really useful analogy. Because this afternoon when we were setting up for this shoot, I was just frustrated. Quite often when I get frustrated, my energy goes right up. And we could have had a useful tool to, because we just, all we did was like set fire to one another's.
It was a day.
Paper house and go, another match. Oh, wow, look at it burn. We could have used a different color.
You could have been like yellow.
Yeah.
What's beyond red?
Inferno.
Yeah.
A whole other spectrum.
Yep.
So
You know what I liked
affecting
about
lots
that
of
though
people.
is that managing of the relationship or the relationship energies is then kind of gamified,
Yes.
which then reduces it back to like it's less about it's not a work tool. It's like a play tool, right? It seems to make it's a less I guess confronting approach to go. How can we improve or use tools in our relationship? We'll gamify it. Right?
I
It
like
still
it.
makes it a fun thing.
Draws attention to the ridiculousness of how intense, like you were saying, you get. You can look back at it and you go, wow, okay, you could be like a Disney, Cruella de Vil character, doing those things that you see the ridiculousness of how intense you were. Yeah, I like that gamification a lot. And you can do that at any moment, I'm sure. You said you had another tool, Rono, that you were going to talk about.
She does, yeah.
Well, it's all in the vein of pattern interrupt, which is what you want to do when things are getting just patterned or caught or escalated. And so another tool that we have, which is similar, but it actually means that you can come back to it versus that's more like simmer down or take it or this. It's called the sacred space card.
Yeah.
And what sacred space is,
it's kind of like a red or yellow card in soccer, or football, offsides, intentional, but the card. You whip it out, the sacred space card.
and it doesn't have to be an actual card, but it's this idea
but we do this.
that now is not the time to discuss this, or clearly we're not able to discuss this, and there's something going on.
Or
Right.
clearly you have some issues that we need to work out. So sacred space.
That works really well.
Copy.
We've gone beyond red, yellow, or more green.
Well, there's that too. It's a final, it's like, look, this isn't going where we want it to go.
Yes.
We're not going to be able to get where we want to go in this moment.
Yeah.
So I'm calling sacred space. And that means he and I both agree, stop talking, go back to whatever you need to do to get through that moment. But it's not about interacting. I mean, if you have to say a few words to work through whatever, if you're driving and trying to find directions or something. But it means that in a later time, no more than 24 to 48 hours.
For us, you can decide what's best for you both.
You make a commitment that you're going to carve out sacred space to come back into a container where you're both going to show up without trigger and charge, or at least as calm or, stress.
Collected.
Yeah,
we say as fully resourced as possible.
Resourced, exactly.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And then you're going to be able to work on what's going on. And it's also kind of like a timeout. It's like timeout. It's really a timeout.
So-
but it's knowing that you're not just timeout, now go to your corners. It's, okay, timeout, go to your corners, and know that we have a container that we're coming back to come back into love and connection and be able to work on whatever it is that's actually, because oftentimes it's not the thing, it's what's underneath.
That's right.
I guess I feel like you'd have to make that a very strong agreement when you decide to agree to the sacred card rule, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes, because we sometimes go, oh, we're stopped, let's not talk about this till afterwards.
Yeah.
And then less than 30 seconds later, someone says, yeah, but. And you're like, no, we just said we're not talking about.
Right.
It's a hard rule to say, oh, we're going to give this space now, because sometimes you're so triggered, you want to. So,
Well, that's key.
That's the key. Yeah, have the card.
Have the card. You don't make space for it in that moment because there is no space. And doesn't mean that in an hour you can't find that space. But maybe it's going to take a day or another day for you to just get through what you need to get through, get yourself recalibrated, and then come back into it. But you come back into it in agreed upon time for a date. And even if it's like a day later and somebody's still stewing about it, you can move the sacred space to another time. But it is a commitment to come back into a container where you're both less charged and more resourced to work out whatever it is.
oh, okay, that's clear. Yeah.
And I just
And
want
communicate. Or just communicate about it. You can just be like, I was just in a mood. Sorry, I didn't drink enough water that day. My bad. I love you. How can I support you better next time?
we've been doing a lot better just apologizing for when we're just
Right.
off, versus even making a big deal about it, because then it just shifts the charge as well. But a key piece to the sacred space is too, it works for a lot of different personalities, because some people, when they're charged, they want to work it out right away. Other people want to retreat and they need space to ponder it. And so by having that, it fills the need of the person that wants to process it right away, because they know that there's another time that's going to be scheduled within whatever set time you agreed to ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that within 36 hours or by this weekend or whatever it is that we're going to talk about this. So I know I need to have myself right now, so I'll do my meditation practice or whatever, and I'll be fine. And then for the other person that needs the space, they're like, thank God I don't have to talk about this right now.
I'm already over processed.
Yeah, I'm already processed. It's always process. Whatever the different styles are, it supports in that.
But this gives a style. Some people, and I know we hadn't before, but the process, I think, is what is potentially missing in a lot of relationships. What this does is give a certain, it's like, baseball. You got your three, you got your
Agreement.
What do they call them in
I
baseball?
don't know.
It's a language.
You're talking to the wrong person.
It is even know how to spell sport.
Go local sports team. Yay.
But it's a sub-language. It's a set of agreements and a set of symbols that are without emotion and without habit or past. And you get it, like I'm seeing families being able to go and have this agreed upon language between them, so they can, no matter what their age group, understand, oh, this means that. It means I need some space, or you need to respect. And it's respect from, not just from a mum and a dad and a kid, but from a human point of view. They get to go, this is our agreement. This means you need to back off. And the kids are like, oh, great, I'm in the cool language zone. I think that would be cool as a kid.
Yeah,
totally.
that'd be amazing.
I mean, I think
I
families.
love that.
Some families have had that for years, where this means back off and I need space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But these things all have meaning. Why can't we have some tools that mean really good things?
Yeah. No, that's true.
I love that. I'm really digging on that.
It's constructive.
It's constructive. 'cause
Constructive agreements, yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of things that we do in the world that have very specific meanings.
Yep.
But I really like that idea of putting these communication signposts in as a process. I think that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Let's use both of them.
Let's use it. It's safe words. It's safe words.
Yep.
And they are safe words.
Safe
They are
words.
safe.
Mhm.
Yeah, literally.
We learned them from people that were coaching us and supporting us in how to explore our edges in the bedroom more, the red, yellow, green, so that, I'm like, okay, I'm touching you, and she's like, okay, green, great. Oh, a little yellow. Oh, okay, I'm a little too hard or whatever. Okay, just like things like that. And then we're like, why are we just using them here? We can use them
everywhere. Because people are having trouble talking about things like money right now. And that makes people, one side of the relationship will freak out while the other person's like, everything will be fine. Yeah. You can put these all the way across the board. Do you have any other wonderful tools that maybe you would share with someone who's listening at home, someone that like really change their life currently while they're in this horrible situation that we're all in?
So specific around communication?
I think
Probably,
so. I
yeah.
feel like communication is the only problem.
Yeah.
If you get your communication solved, everything's fine.
I know, it is communication.
I'm sure you have one. I want to just say one thing that might support it all. All of these are tools, and they're also practices.
Yes.
They're not something that you can just just whip out, because it's kind of like if you're in a war zone and a bomb goes off next to you and they're shooting all around and you've never been in a war zone, like how are you
can't
going
suddenly
to
become a sniper.
Exactly. Most likely you're not going to be that great. But if you practice in that position,
That's right.
and I'm not saying that all marriages are war zones, but sometimes it feels like
But in
it.
the heat of a moment.
In the heat of battle, it's like, what do I do? So it is a practice. So anything that we share or anything that anybody shares, it is something that you have to make a commitment to do or to try out and keep coming back to it. And what we have found, I can't say our relationship's ever been volatile, but younger on, we've been together 13 years, like early on, there were some just
heated moments.
stupid heated moments.
Sure.
We don't have those anymore because we've had these practices and tools. And as we're escalating, one of us is aware enough. It just takes one person to be aware enough, one person resourced enough to be like, hold up, yellow, or sacred space, or next tool.
Yeah, and we do have a guide of how to create sacred space, so we can talk about that later.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Get it to people somehow.
So talk about a lot of times disagreements or situations happen because one or both partners is under-resourced, right? They're having a stressful day. They might have, a mood shift based on hormonal imbalances. They might have, they might be hungry, angry.
Somewhat.
Right?
It's a really
Can I get
good
our
point.
hands in here, please?
Yeah.
Right? I know, not enough sleep. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And so we've been developing this fun thing around, do I have me? Am I actually resourced? And it's like, I got me.
I got me.
We got we.
We got me. So if I don't have me
Mm-hmm.
and she has her,
then I can be the one to help him when he's actually getting irritated or belligerent or whatever, hangry.
How do you do that?
Wow. Well, if I'm totally resourced, I can be like, oh my gosh, my buddy's having a tough time right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a tough time because he's not normally like this. And so
How do you
clearly,
navigate it? I find that hard to navigate when someone's like, I'm not fine.
you might well trigger. Yeah,
Right, but I think doesn't the sentiment of I've got me, you've got you, we've got we, imply that if I highlight to you, I don't think you've got you right now. If we both
If you said it that way, I would flip out.
oh, okay.
Like, I think there's a way.
I don't have me.
Exactly.
Okay, asshole.
So there's a way to have them without knowing that they're falling on their face. What's the loving support? Because this is how we train the practice, right? Someone's at home listening, going, "Oh, okay, I could deal with that. My bear with the sore tooth at home currently in this way." What do you say?
Well, we've been learning what are the actual words to use in that particular moment. So if he's got him and he's of the wherewithal, and I'm going, and then he can say, I'm trying to remember our exact words for me. Hey, buddy, what do you need right now?
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
What do you need? Is there something I can help you with? Is there something
Simple.
you need?
And also another one too is like, hey, do you want to dance with me or breathe with
let's-
me.
let's
Another
breathe.
one.
Snap out of it, right?
I do dance with you all,
You
by
do. You do.
by instinct. I do dance with her all the time as a calming tool, or as
Right,
like a
yeah.
resourcing tool.
Yeah.
Totally. Calming tool, resourcing tool, same thing.
Yep.
Exactly. But exactly, that's very, if he says, you need to breathe, I don't be like, screw you, I need to breathe.
Exactly.
But
Don't
if I
tell
say
me what I
breathe
need.
with me,
Breathe with me.
Yeah.
Or can we breathe together? And
Okay.
we've made agreements in advance when it comes
Of course.
Yeah.
so that we know that when he says that, it's like, no, I know that's going to work. And if it doesn't work in the moment, then we modify it the next time.
Yeah.
But at least it's a place to go, okay, yeah, you're right. I need to breathe with you. All right, let's
Yeah.
breathe. Oh, no, that's going to be 3 breaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got time for that.
Also, I think listeners or viewers would need to know that these are Jedi level tricks after
true.
years and years of practice.
come up with a
Yeah.
comparison, simpler ones.
Yeah.
It's true, but I think it's right. It's right what you're saying. If you know that there's a possibility there, and you've had an agreement eye to eye and said, "I love you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to move through thick and thin. You know, till death do
So
us
that's
part."
the part you need to kind of
That's the
before
part.
coming the
That's
Jedi
the
of it, right?
And then
no
you know,
relationships on the table. Like
Ex-
that's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Do not put your relationship on the table.
Yeah.
On the
Right.
chopping
The
block.
chopping block.
Yeah, like you're not going
Exactly.
to threaten the relationship.
so if you know that's your agreement, then you get to say, maybe green is a good practice. So when things appear to you as green, you can practice putting those processes in practice. So that when you really do need a sniper, you're not running for the hills.
Exactly.
Right.
There's a lot of metaphors and
I'm just trying to give
I
Cole
know,
back,
I know.
mate.
Yeah, I know. Good.
It's like a sniper at a paintball game.
Yeah. Who's dancing with a Jedi? Okay, so just be careful and we'll be fine.
You knew what I was talking about,
Like
didn't
flying.
you? You're with me.
A
Right,
Jedi
Mom?
The point
sticker
is,
and a picture, walk into
yeah.
a bar.
Oh, I love that gag. I never got it. Oh.
Good tagline.
as you can see, everyone who's listening, this is why we love these two.
Yeah, exactly. They make learning how to communicate with your beloved fun, because it really should be fun. Stuff's getting so serious right now, and so mired in the nitty gritty of it. It's nice to kind of lighten it up and get clear on the fact that you adore each other, you adore your child, you adore your husband. Nothing can be so overwhelming that you can't put a new little habit in place and the whole world opens up again. That's what I want for people.
It's so
That's
true.
exactly right.
And I want to say this too, that most of us get into a relationship because we meet this person, we're like, oh my goodness, and they're amazing. And then some of us get married, maybe too quickly, maybe not quick enough. And then there's children and everything. Like life just happens. And then one day you're sitting across from this person and you're wondering, like, where did the romance go? Why am I so frustrated by everything? And I'll say this, and this could be controversial. If you're triggered, it's about you, not about your partner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, like, because that just means you're under-resourced, you're not understanding, it's about you. And so the hardest thing to really do in this time is to recognize that if you're the one that's irritated by them snoring, it's not their snoring, Will. I'm kidding. It's not their snoring. It's
Mark.
it's about you not being resourced. And the snoring is just pointing to where you need to be more resourced. So, for example,
More sleep.
So you're like, I'm
So that's
Yeah.
why, so I leave and find a better solution. Rather than being irritated at her snoring, I go, I'll sleep in another bed. I'll
But
give
if you
myself
do
space.
get irritated about that, like if it's something that's not just snoring, if it's something that is really irritating, that it's my habit, like
Then I
how
should
do you-
examine how I should fix it rather than tell you
Do
not
you
to
do
snore.
that through conversation though? Do we talk about it? Do we open up?
That would be a great sacred space conversation.
Yeah.
That would actually be a really great sacred space
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
You
it's
can't
all
keep
about
these things
setting
in.
it up.
Yeah.
No.
That's the key. And it's about setting everything for us is about space,
Yes.
both
In
actual
containers.
space,
and containers.
and the space that you create within your relationship, and setting up the context or the container, which is like a container. Then you can see space when you have a container. But if it's just air, it doesn't seem like any space.
Got you.
When you have a container, you're like, oh, look there's something
Yeah.
in this container. And so
I like that. I've never heard you say context equals
In the-
container, right? That's a good way to for people that haven't used that word before
Yeah.
to understand that.
totally.
Yeah.
So
And
you're
so
having
you-
these. Go ahead.
You were saying, like, you're setting up the context that,
Yes.
oh, we adore each other.
Yes.
We love our children. X, Y. So these are the 4 truths of our relationship.
Yes.
We're not going anywhere. We love each other. We love our children. We want to have the best sex ever. And we want to retire when we're 65.
We all want that.
Right? All that. So then there's your context. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our container. Okay. Set that to the side.
Got
okay.
it.
What else do we want? Okay. We want this. We want just smooth. I just don't want to fight before breakfast. That's all I need. Okay, cool. That's what you want. You just don't want any fights before breakfast. Everything else is fine. Okay, great. What do you want? Whatever it is, set the context, the goal, however you want to talk about it. But that's a key piece that people are just like floating about, not being intentional.
Which reminds me that this is a key point. We talk a lot about intentions and experience and getting clear of how you want every experience to go based on setting intentions. And most people in the world
don't know what they want.
Moving through life, being in response to life versus intentional. How would I like this to go? What would I need to have it go that way? How do I communicate my needs in order to have it be that way? We're just like at effect so often because we're moving so quickly. We're not taking the time to check in, make sure that I got me. What does it mean to have me? Oh, I need to make sure that if I'm going to that place and we're going to have that picnic with my friends, that I've got my mask, my picnic blanket, that I've already talked to him. We're going to actually for sure socially distance, whatever the case may be. And I'll feel really great. And I won't be stressing out the whole time on the way to the picnic, picking fights with him
because I'm not socially distancing, but we didn't talk about socially distancing.
Right.
And so she's annoyed that I'm close to people, but we didn't talk about it.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, all this time we've been in isolation.
You don't care about me. And you don't care about my relationship and my health. And like, what are you talking about? Versus like, oh, it's really important to you that we stay socially distanced. We're just making up scenarios, but
can I share that? Remember that agreement that we had when we first started dating?
Yeah.
About the attraction thing?
Oh yeah,
that really. So Teresa and I, when we first, this is by dumb intuition that we figured this out. When we first started dating, we'd obviously not obviously, but we had dated a number of people each, right? And so that was common.
I don't know what he's talking about.
It was common knowledge. But as we went into it, some of my past relationships were kind of mired by people feeling threatened by attraction to other people. When we first started dating, we were like, okay, let's be honest. For the rest of our lives, we're probably going to find other people active.
Because I want to be found attractive still.
So why don't we just acknowledge that and take it on board and make an agreement that if you find someone attractive to the point where it might feel like you're compelled to do something, or that you're tempted, or you have some kind of other, our agreement was, well, you're free to do that, provided you call and speak to the other person first and say, here's what I'm feeling, or here's what my desire might be, and give them the opportunity to respond. And then if they say go ahead, go ahead. But if they say anything else, just let them have the right of response, which seemed kind of odd at the time. You're like, well, aren't you opening yourself up to... But what happened was, one of the first times it happened to me, I was working and I found myself really attracted and then tempted by someone. And I called her up on a break and I was like, hey, so I'm at work. There's this girl at the club who is making me feel these things. And she went, well, why does she make you feel that way? And I was challenged by the answer, but I explained it. And she said, so rather than go and pursue that, come home and let me do those things you just described. And I hung up the phone. I walked back into the same situation. That girl lost all, and she was zero attraction to me right now.
Just by talking.
Because I knew I had the opportunity to go home and my wife would be all those things that I haven't mentioned to her yet. It's just like at a really early...
But also I didn't feel threatened. You shouldn't feel threatened by honesty and communication. Like that just empowered both of us to be more connected.
Yeah. So we did use that tool early in our relationship
being
a few
clear.
times.
Yeah.
But then at some point it no longer became a tool because we had that. It just built a strength that meant that it wasn't really a factor anymore, right? But it was an obvious thing in an early relationship to, like, you know what I mean?
Well,
it's
more to your point about getting clear with what you want. He knew what he wanted and what he needed, and I knew what I wanted, and we were able to meet and go, well, let's satisfy that for each other.
Yeah.
I feel like when you drew the analogy then about people going, oh, well, I know how to go out and do a COVID party and need the gloves. I feel like a lot of mistakes are made in relationships because people don't actually spend time to get clear in what they want in a relationship. You know what I mean? You just walk in going, la, 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 and then you...
It'd be nice to be...
Exactly.
You nailed what I was trying to say.
Did I?
Yeah.
You complete me, babe. So I think even before we even get into a relationship, the analogy you were drawing, Rona, before is that it's always about you. If you're getting frustrated with someone else, or if you're not getting what you want in a relationship, it's because you're not clear.
Totally.
You haven't gotten clear.
It's such a rub, and it totally sucks.
It
for a
sucks.
While. But once you
still wanna
realize
blame the other
it,
person.
it starts to. There is a period of a few days to a few lifetimes where that, like, recognizing that it's all you that's causing all the stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
and your ability to respond versus react. Then it does, at least for me, it's taken many years, but I'm really starting to see how powerful that is. And when I have a buddy who's also doing that work,
Got it.
now it's boom, 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 and a quantum leap.
So you're saying the power is in the ability to respond rather than react.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Which is me having myself and being fully resourced.
Great.
And also being able to look at where your trigger lies.
Or I'm projecting, the old pointing one finger at you, there's three pointing back at me. kind of
Right.
thing. And so much like another tool, another Jedi, or
Give it to Jedi. We'll see if
we'll
we
stick
can
with
bring it
Jedi
down to
tool.
the.
it is. I forgot what the tool was. It's that good.
There is no tool. There's only tool.
I guess that it is. I'm constantly like every day now.
The Ewing versus
No
I.
matter what,
Oh.
if I say you this, I'm in such a place where I'm
Yes.
like, okay, so that's them. How is that me?
Yes.
And then I find this deeper piece. It's like, okay, cool. And it doesn't mean that people aren't dicks, and it doesn't mean that people out like are all those things.
Just bigger dicks.
But yeah,
Pointing to self
totally.
in that moment.
Totally.
Diggy does.
Everyone
Diggy
knows.
Diggy does.
Like, when you're in a really great mood, let's say like it's sunny and it's just like a perfect day, and like someone comes out of their house and throws something and it gets all over you on the ground, and you're in a great mood. You're like, oh crap, that's not. Oh, don't worry about it. No big deal. But if you're in a bad mood, you're on your way to work, you might accost that person because it's a totally, you're in a different state, and so you don't have yourself. And so again, it's all about, I guess the number one tool, it's not a Jedi thing, the practice of it to become masterful at it is Jedi, but is having yourself and putting yourself first, putting your needs first, not at the sacrifice or the detriment of other people, but really like, what do I really need? What do I really want? Not just like going along with it, but like really finding out what's important to you, what's important to both of you, what's important to the relationship. So I guess it is kind of like setting a vision or setting a goal or setting a desire or an intention or a way of being that you want the relationship to be. I bet you most people potentially even listening to this don't have what's a couple words that describes the feeling that you want your relationship to be? Is it safe? Is it loud? What is it?
So the action might be as we move forward, if you're at home going, okay, I get that, and I get that it needs to be Jedi, but how would I possibly, because we're so in each other's pockets, how would I start to make a new action now? The one thing you can do is maybe just, make a promise to your partner to say that the way forward is to, at every moment I'm feeling contracted or feeling issues, what I'm going to do is just speak that out loud. Just start being able to say your truth about how you feel about something, not about how the other person has made you feel.
Right,
But,
exactly.
I'm
That's
feeling this
right
way.
Yes.
I'm feeling fearful.
As long as it's I'm
exactly.
feeling.
Exactly.
If it's you're making me feel,
Right.
that could be
Well,
disastrous.
that's actually, that's never true.
Right.
It's
Right,
never
exactly.
true.
No, but not everyone knows that. Like, quite often people feel like others around them are making them feel like that's
Of course.
that's a common like conception that
Absolutely.
people have. So
Absolutely.
one of the first tips is understanding that people aren't making you feel anything. That you are feeling something. And then
Your emotions are yours.
Yeah.
The way that you've chosen, or the way that you're habitualizing the response is an emotion that is coming back up again, which is your choice to be able to deal with, change, modify. So maybe that's an interesting thing to do. Just start
Do you know
talking
what?
about how
Can I
you
ask
feel.
a question? It's not on your list.
Aries.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I knew that.
The
I
end.
could
Thanks
tell.
for joining us, everybody. Good show.
Actually, the funny joke when I was a kid, I would say, "What's your star sign?" and people would answer it, and I go, "I knew it," and I would always go, "Really? How?" And I just rattle off some bullshit because it was such a dumb thing that I could
But you could still ice to Eskimos,
I
babe.
could.
So.
Anyway, but my question was, and it's maybe specifically for Ronna, because I did find up until I got a little more Jedi about relationships, was men are not so willing or not so available to the idea of being articulate about their emotions or their desires or their wants in a relationship, and especially when talking to a female, right, or their partner if it's not a female, or whatever. Like, men choosing to be articulate about the way they feel isn't our cultural norm per se. So if you had advice from men to like either up their game or find a way to be comfortable or like get their head around that concept?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to answer it in two ways. The first way is by talking about women. And there's an invitation I have for women, and I had this invitation for Sierra many, many years ago. And a huge reason why I'm with her actually is because I was able to have those conversations and she didn't blow up. Because my experience of women, my view of this culturally is that a huge reason why men keep their emotions back is because when they actually share them, that most women aren't equipped to meet them in it and have a conversation around it because it violates their safety, or pushes up against it. It threatens their safety as like, this is like biological of like, oh, if this man's talking about being attracted to that woman, I'm not safe because he might leave me for her. And then I'm out here on my own and I have to fend for myself. And who's going to kill the deer and bring it home and cook it for me? Like it's like old school that. And so I think it's been shunned or like pushed away. And so men have just learned, why am I going to share anything? Because it's just going to burn. I'm not going to. So first and foremost, my invitation to women is like, if you really want your man to be a real man and like strong and big and that, and also that soft, kind, forthcoming, vulnerable man, which I've been told every woman wants to, you have to become, for him to be vulnerable, you have to be the strong one. You have to play the pole and actually be able to hold yourself with whatever he's bringing and not make it about you. Make it about, wow, my beloved is sharing something. It's uncomfortable for me, but how must he feel bringing this to me? And be in that space. And again, we find sacred space helps that. So then to men, I would say, and feel free to hop in if you want. Well, every summer we come to the Love Shack for at least the last 10 years, but my whole life we've come up to this property, and it's my family's property, and we've had it for 60 plus years. And so my mom and dad are up in the front main house, and
they've been married for 50 years.
50 years. Like they celebrated their 50th wedding.
Still in love.
Still in love.
Amazing.
And many times they probably should have gotten a divorce. And there's a huge part of me that would think they would actually be way happier with other people if I could like unplug them and plug them into who I thought would really serve them. But yet their commitment to each other and the camaraderie and friendship, and like that's undeniably awesome. And yet like my dad does not open up and is not vulnerable. He's like your typical man,
American man,
and a wonderful man.
Right, happens in Australia too.
Yeah, but just straight up. And so I don't want to just say like, oh man, just share. Like what I feel for that is it really is it's got to be in partnership. It's not just a thing for a guy to do on his own. And I take the risk and know that you might get some pushback or some blowback. And if you are really tuned into yourself, men, and you're really aware of what you need or want, and it's not just like I kind of want it, like, but it's something that you really need and desire. That woman is not able to meet you, and you create a sacred space that you have that conversation, so that it's not just like, oh yeah, that woman was hot, and like that's not helpful to anybody. But like Sierra and I had that conversation. Is there if I share this?
Yeah, I was gonna say just real quick, you guys really just modeled that in the sense of what you guys, the agreement you made, the intention you made going in about attraction, and how much it felt powerful for you, Will, to be able to share with Teresa when that came up, and then how you held it, right? But if you hadn't had that agreement, again, that container,
That's right.
he wouldn't have felt safe to share
And
that.
who knows where you would have
Because
been?
he would have maybe thought, oh, you're going to blow up on me, or he might lose you, or whatever the fear that has men or anyone really hold back on sharing.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it. It's just like create the container and as a man go in and know that potentially your woman or partner
may have a reaction.
May have a reaction.
May have her own feelings.
And can you be at first ready to hold her even though you're the one that needs to be held?
Yeah.
Right.
By giving her that kind of space again and invitation so that she feels held, then keep working that process.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
I don't know if there's any shortcut to that.
Yeah.
I feel like
unfortunately there's no shortcut to relationship.
There's not at all. But if you're both in the
There
same,
was a thing when I was in South America which that kind of prompted that feeling. I think it might have prompted how I got into the relationship with you. I had this little story about this kid who fell down this hole. This woman came to the edge, little girl came to the edge of it, and she was like trying to tell him how to get up. And he was like, well, you can't tell me how to get up. You should get in here and see how difficult it is to get up. And he spent time convincing her to come into the hole as well, so that she could see how difficult it was to get out. But his point being was, rather than being the most resourced, it was finding the way to utilize the most resources. So he didn't need to be the strongest to get out of the hole. He needed to convince her to be part of his team so they could both get out of a hole. So I came up with this thing is that strength really is not being the most resourced. It's being able to understand how to utilize the most resources, which means share your weakness with someone, invite them onto the team, and then suddenly you have more resources.
Agreed.
Yeah. But how to convince anyone to do that other than inviting them into your hole, it's it's a little difficult.
I think you touched on a really interesting point, is that what I find is the most difficult thing for, myself and, in common with others, is that you have to be, obviously trust the person, but then you have to be willing to be at the moment where you're willing to share yourself completely, be seen by someone else. That's terrifying, but it's the only way that you can deepen. And therefore your pain, your suffering, your doubt, your fear are all things that if you really are in authentic truth that you do want this relationship to last, especially through such difficult situations that are going on right now, you have to be able to go, I'm in trouble, I need support. I think that's what you were just touching on then. I find that one of the most difficult things to do, really, to be seen like that. And that sometimes takes 10 years or more in a relationship with the same person. We're still finding things that we never knew about each other. Like the onion just keeps getting smaller and smaller. We're down to a little cocktail onion by now.
Cipollino.
It's crazy.
So you guys are 13 years into it.
Yep.
Still discovering.
Still discovering. Yep. Literally we did hit like a plateau, or I was like, I think we're done discovering. I think that's it. It was about maybe 3 months, 6 months max. And then recently, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, dear God.
Here's the
whole
next.
other wing.
Do you think it's because you guys are taking like new adventures and journeys together, and so suddenly, because it's a new frontier, for lack of a better term, that then you're discovering your survival skills within one another? Do you know what I mean? Like you're taking on a new adventure and you go, but you're like, well, I didn't know that you knew how to fix a wagon wheel. We've never been on a wagon. Now I know that you can fix a wagon wheel, right?
Let's get a bloody posse happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Totally.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah,
Circle
well,
them.
I feel that also. We're both deeply committed to our personal evolution as well as our coupledom evolution, as well as the world's evolution. So I find that if there's something happening in the world that I'm having a response to, like for example, right now, I think everybody in the world is having a major response to what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And here in the United States, what's happening politically. And so instead of just getting all riled up about that, which I had started to get riled up about that, I'm a I've got a little inner righteousness and a bit of an activism part of myself. And I grew up in politics as well. So it's a thing. And I would find myself getting really triggered. And what ended up happening in the trigger of the world, just like I would in a trigger of the relationship, why am I having this trigger? And so by digging deep into my own shadow work, actually, I've been doing a lot of shadow exploration, which I've done off and on for many years, long time. I'm recognizing this other part of myself that had yet to be expressed for the longest time because I had pushed it down and blocked it away in order to actually, like a survival coping mechanism, to be okay in the world, to be more well received in the world, to get certain things in a certain way. But it denied a whole part of myself that is now coming online based on my searching and digging for what is underneath this trigger, which now we're getting to play with, which he kind of knew that part of me was there, but he didn't know it to the extent because I didn't even know it.
No, I mean, it's kind of like saying, oh yeah, I know that the ocean's there.
But you never see it.
But what's in the ocean? So many things. And so like, oh yeah, there's fish, there's sand, but I didn't know all the other stuff that was there.
Yeah. So I think, for us, and I think this is probably true for many people, maybe consciously or unconsciously, the evolution comes when you hit a crisis point or when you hit a place of you can't get past something and you have to stop and take a look.
Yeah.
And you're going to, combust dealing with it because you're not looking at it, or you're going to look and you're going to really find the piece that is activated the most in you. And then that could be completely new.
This is when people run away instead of leaning in.
Yeah.
You lean in, don't run away.
That's exactly
Totally.
it. The people that make it and celebrate their 50-year wedding anniversary,
That's right.
It's like you lean in versus lean out. And I know for us that regardless of what our relationship looks like, that we're going to remain in relationship because we're committed to us being the best that we can be, whatever that might look like. It might look totally different today than it does 10 years from now, what the format of our relationship is. But because we're going to continue to lean in and we're committed to each other being the best that we can be, it's going to work out.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's a bit chilly. We had to pause.
For a moment, well, so Rono could get a jacket.
I made to get my jacket on. Excellent.
Goodness me, the love shack gets a bit chilly in there sometimes, isn't it?
No.
Lucky you've got the tools to warm it up.
Yes.
We took a break and your jokes got bad.
Thanks, babe. They've always been bad. Where have you been? Dead silence.
Yeah.
It's always uncomfortable.
I can't wait for your guys' show to come out.
Well, we haven't shot our show yet, as Teresa's been ridiculously busy with work stuff. So we're trying to find a moment to get together so we can shoot it. But our show is based on. Shall we tell them?
Let's tell them.
It's also like a little pre-release for your audience too.
We're going to debut our show right now.
Yeah. But our show is about relationships.
It's called Till Death Do Us
Till
Part.
Death Do Us Part. And basically we take a look at heinous, horrific, horrible murders between married couples and imagine if there was ever a better solution than murder.
Yes.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about. How to fix it before you get to killing
murder.
your partner.
Yeah.
Before you go down that road,
Yeah.
let's dial it in a little bit.
We try to discover whether murder was an overreaction.
I love murder. True crime, I'll be there all day. You can just I can put me straight on that 24/7, hook me up. I'm into it. I love murder and the psychology behind what would make somebody do that and what goes into their relationship. And it's like, wow. So we're talking
So each
about,
week, one of us will choose a murder. For example, I will choose a murder of a wife who kills a husband,
And mine would
so that I
always
can
be a
check in with
husband who kills a
Teresa.
wife.
Right. See, and I can check in with her whether that woman overreacted or whether she would have taken. Basically,
I mean, if you just had to close the bloody kitchen doors, like I said that
Yeah.
you would.
You wouldn't have
about
garroted me with a
Chop your
pair.
head off with a kitchen knife.
You'd be alive.
So you
exactly.
get it. That's what the show's about.
So it's a relationship show in the real extreme.
That's great. I love that twisted darkness.
Great title and
So
everything.
dark.
Title.
Before people get to that, I recommend that you speak to Rono and Sierra,
They will have.
though. This is where you
If
come
you're
in.
too far gone, we've got other experts. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so there's something in value in like turning our attention towards that, which is not murder, which is like being part of a group of friends and circles and communities that focus on building relationships.
You've created this place, this new entity which doesn't exist anywhere else that I've seen. But I want to know why and how. When did you get to a point where the two of you, first of all, how the hell did you get together and go, we know the tools and we want to dedicate our lives to having relationships be thriving with everyone on the planet if you could possibly reach them. So how did this happen? How did you come to realize that you two together were, such a powerful couple? Yeah, fire starters.
Well, it was one night in Paris.
It's always one
One
bloody
night in
night
Paris.
No, his name was Paris.
How'd you both get in there at the one time?
I know.
That's podcast 3.
Well, I think how we got there is we didn't know the tools, but we knew.
We know a few tools.
Sure.
We had a few tools up our sleeve.
Independently, you'd been down these paths.
We knew what worked, and to us, what's one thing that has worked throughout time? So, any major empire that has a ruler or a dictator or anything no longer exists. It's been constantly churned over and over and over and over again. And so the whole guru model of teaching and like, I'm the guru, learn from me, I know everything. And for individuals to put their power outside of themselves to another individual is also dangerous in a lot of ways because it doesn't work. It doesn't hold truth long enough. And so in our own growth within each other and ourselves and the inquiry of how can I be a better man, a better person, a better human on this planet, a better beloved, it came clear to me is that when I allow myself to be vulnerable with family, with friends, with my community, and they allow them to support me in my growth and not be so high and mighty that I know everything or I should know everything or so private that I'm special or I can't share this. And there are places that I recommend not sharing things. There are places to share and not share. But what's the one thing that has lasted for thousands and thousands of years? And it's tribe. It's tribe of like-minded people that are all moving together towards a common goal. And sure, sometimes entire tribes get wiped out, but it's not from their lack of, it's usually by a dictator trying to control things. And so
Or a conqueror.
Or a conqueror. So what we found is that
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, yeah.
You married it.
That doesn't
You
happen.
married it, mate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
In for a penny.
keep those
in for a
looks to
pound.
yourself.
But anyways, like what we figured out was they're like, you know what? The wisdom of the tribe, the wisdom of people that are on a similar path, that have a shared vision of how they want to be as human beings. Like even if you look at religion that has been around for a long time as well, whether it's good or bad, whether you like them or you don't like them, there's a certain connection and bond and community that is created in there. And we were thinking, because we grew up religious, but soon realized that religion wasn't for us, but we loved the community aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
We loved the connection.
He says the same thing.
Yeah, I grew up very religious and tried 3 different religions actually during my lifetime. And you're right, that community sense is really compelling and very engaging. The leadership part of it does something to you.
Yep, totally. And even like being forgiven for your sins or whatever, which is basically confessing, letting out something that you're holding on to and letting another person witness it and say, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Now go back and do better next time. Like that process is still a process that we as humans need, because if we just hold on to it all of ourselves, like it's tough.
Yeah.
And so as we were developing and as we were growing into all these different things, we kept trying to find it in all these different places, even Paris. And it wasn't in Paris.
Yeah.
That
Paris
callback.
isn't
He's
big
good
enough.
at the callback.
It's not big enough. But then we realized, we're like, well, it's not out there. So let's create it for ourselves. Let's create a safe place for relationship to be expressed, because it's actually not that safe, even though you think it is potentially out in the world.
Yeah.
We don't really actually celebrate relationship.
No, a lot of times if you're kissed for too long in public, what do you hear? What do you hear
Yeah.
if you kissed
Get
too
a
long?
Get a room.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and if you look
Take
on
that off screen. We don't want
Right.
to see it.
Right.
and if you look on TV and in Hollywood, or just like the general media, the programming of relationship is right now, men are stupid idiots that are sex craved and starved and just want sex all the time.
It's the same old
And-
trope, isn't it? It just doesn't,
Same
it shouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's the same old shit. And so everywhere we look, we're being fed a bunch of lies. And it's also like the only option is marriage and children in a house. And there's a lot more relationships out there than just marriage, kids in a house. And there's a lot more types of relationships out there. There's different sexual preferences. There's different formats of relationship. There's different types of marriage. There's different agreements. And so we're like, how is anybody supposed to figure it all out? And so that's where a lot of this, the underneath of a lot of this came for Sierra and I. Like, we can talk about like all the business masterminds that we were in, and we were like, oh, this is really cool, but it's that guru model again. How can we just connect with people? Like there's a lot of different places, but the underneath of it all was, we're like, the best growth, the longest longevity, the greatest wisdom comes from community and the tribe and sharing authentically with one another, and being vulnerable and allowing a space that you can be held, heard, seen, witnessed in your mess and in your successes, and celebrated for being in love, and encouraged when you're not so great to be better, and all of us supporting one another. And so that was at least for me, my biggest drive to how this was created.
Nice.
It's like that family we were talking about, you know, the baseball things. You're creating a larger family where we all know what the language is. We can start to spread process, so we can share process with other people on how to. Because relationship is it's hard.
Yeah.
All you want is to get into a relationship, and the second that you're in it, you're like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you're right. There is like this society which has this encouraging notion of either like not accepting or witnessing or in fact even like criticizing other people's relationships, going, oh, especially for the man, going, I don't know, in America and in Australia, this machoism that says, you know, when you're gentle or nurturing or sensitive to your partner or your wife or whatever, girlfriend, and people go, oh, you've been such a whatever the word. Like in Australia, pussy whipped is a thing that boys call each other all the time, which is such a like destructive term.
Yeah.
And what it doesn't do is you create a culture and a society where everyone's like building relationships. It's like to have a place where you can be with other relationships or couples where people are nourishing a man's tenderness or sensitivity is a really valuable concept to me.
Totally.
Yeah, and learning from each other, because there is no one size fits all model, as Ronald spoke to, and there's not a lot of places that couples have in a safe container where it's not overly sexualized either. Like, we looked for couples communities, we mostly found couples communities that were engaging sexually with each other, and we're like, well, that's not what we want to do either. And so where is there a place where a woman can feel safe and let down her guard and know that all the brothers have her because they honor her man or her partner or whatever, you know, their relationship. They honor the relationship. And where can the men, as you just spoke to, Will, feel like he can actually show all parts and sides of himself and still be honored and celebrated as a man and celebrated for that in your relationship.
Yeah.
And it's held in a container where everybody knows what you just said, that relationship.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. And it's not always easy. And we can together find the way. Yeah. And while it be multiple different ways to get there, there's still patterns and understandings that we see in the human relating field that show up that we can go, oh, that's just pattern AB503.
Yeah. I guess like we all want to know how to love to our fullest potential, right? We want to know how to cherish to our fullest potential. We all got different ways of doing it.
So what is it that you've created? What does it look like then? What is this thing that we can participate in to figure out how to be a better person to your person?
Be a better person to your person.
I'll put that new tagline in. Be a better person to your person.
Your person being the first person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to start there.
Yeah. Well, Eden World it's a community. We have within that community a thing we call Eden Sanctuary, which is a place to practice being in relationship. We call it a sanctuary to evolve your relationship. And
it's a private membership club with varying degrees of engagement and involvement and easy price points to, like I say, a cup of coffee or a car payment, depending on how engaged or involved you will be.
So it's an ongoing kind of engagement that you pay money toward, and then you can be a part of it to whatever level that you want to be involved. But you can get help, you can get support, you can get guidance.
A relationship gym.
Relationship gym.
Gym.
Peer-to-peer relationship gym.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer.
Let's use the gym analogy for now for fun. I want to touch him.
This Ruby's in the shot. Ruby's always in the shot.
So let's use the gym as the analogy just for fun since you brought it up. So it's a peer-to-peer gym. So you've got long-term bodybuilders and weightlifters. You've got athletes. You've got people that could use to work out a little bit more. It might be their first time at the gym, and all sorts of stuff. And everyone is there to make sure that everyone at the gym is healthy, happy, full of zest
Committed.
in life, stays committed to their commitment, is honoring of each other. And some people only want to work out once a month or a couple times a month. Other people want to work out, every day or every week. And so depending on where you're at in your relationship and all of that's what Eden World provides for you. There's ways that you can touch in and not be a member. And we offer, connection points virtually for people to connect in. And then if you know that you want to have a safe environment to practice, to grow
the
yourself,
art of relationship.
the art of relationship.
Yeah.
Relating, because it's not just while you're practicing the art of relationship, you're also in a community where you get to be mirrored and witnessed. And that's also giving you tools for relating with other people who are also committed to their relationship. So it's an understanding of how to navigate being human.
That's right.
Yeah.
That
It's
all
kind
makes
of like you're sharing.
It does.
It's almost like every other couple is the equipment at the gym as well, right? Does that make sense? Like if I want to work out this part of my relationship,
you can call me dumbbell. I've been called worse.
then I'll use I'll use you as my dumbbell. You know what I mean? I'll use you as my dumbbell.
75-pound though, baby.
But that's kind of like, that's really it, right? Like the techniques are kind of being shared.
And how are you doing this? Is it like a Facebooky network thing?
We're in the process and we're about to launch it in a few days. A brand new online portal, which is similar to Facebook, but it's our own proprietary software and everything.
So no one's selling anybody anything, aka social dilemma. Have you seen that? You have to see that.
Yeah.
It's a must.
Yeah. This is about making enrichment rather than extraction.
Yeah. Nice.
Exactly.
Well
We're actually very mindful of things because what we're looking at is like, I don't ever want to be clickbait. I don't ever want to be trying to get people to do things. And I do want to guide people towards themselves and their ability to check back in, because there are so many distractions out in the world. One of the things in propaganda, which I guess this movie that you're talking about was about, basically, is what is being used
to propagate.
It's just the business model itself is inherently dangerous to humankind.
Right.
It
and
doesn't.
So how do we? I don't even want to fight against it.
Yeah.
But how do we help people and offer a place that they can unplug from those things and not be bombarded, not be totally, taken advantage of by those things? Because our thing is like, I want to create a sanctuary for all of us to be able to be fully expressed without outside
Mm-hmm.
ways of making us think or not think or whatever else, so that each of you get to share whatever your version of love is and be celebrated in that.
Yeah. So it's everyone gets to contribute to the context, right? Or that container.
Yes, everyone.
Yeah.
It's user generated. It's from everyone's experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, so we have that forum, and that's a big piece of how we're connecting in with each other in between calls. But the sanctuary itself offers many opportunities for the couples to come together and have conversations, to learn tools together and practice what we've learned, to connect in your sovereign kingdom, which is if you want to be with just the men, if you want to be with just the women, or if you want to be in the in-between because you don't know where you want to be, but to connect with yourself regardless of what that is or where that is or where you think you belong or want to belong. And then also a place where you can be supported ongoing through what we call a couples council, where every week you're paired with 2 other couples who are able to hold you and witness you and reflect to you and share their triumphs and successes and messes and vice versa. And you can kind of mastermind and brainstorm and see each other reflected. So it's it's virtual offerings, courses, classes, gatherings. It's virtual forums, and it's events, both virtual that we spend like a weekend retreat together, and when we can gather again, that's in person, which is what you guys experience. And that's
just to speak to that, we did experience that. It was really magical, wonderful sense of community, and
that's what got us thinking about why you'd be great to be guests on the show, because we're just starting to get involved with this thing that is called Eden that you've created, and it's extraordinary to say the least. I know that we have been together for what feels like forever.
We're at 11 years.
It's just the more forever I've ever accepted.
Our relationship, I mean, for example, in all aspects of it, is getting better every.
The tools that you have are something that I had never known existed before. I knew that I could go to, follow my own spiritual path and figure that out with my own landmarking or whatever. But nothing was on with another person, and not my mum and not my dad and not my past, but the person who's coming into my future with me. And that's where I feel like I got to figure out a lot about myself and my wants and where I needed to go with this other person, so that it was a really integral part, I think, of building my way forward and building our way forward. And I just think that it's really worth sharing, right? You found that it's been quite a remarkable experience.
Yeah. It's an exciting venture into my life that's only provided growth, right?
Yeah.
And coming from like a history of like super terrible.
We've all had those.
No,
who were those people? But
I was the people you were getting involved with. Those 2 super horrible. Let's use the word fuckboy. But that kind of I really didn't take advantage of my full potential and the connection I could have with other people. Right? So moving into that in my life later on in life, and then suddenly like honing those skills by doing that with other people, like-minded people, is what I found the most beneficial. Which is like when you get amongst other men and women who want to perfect their art of relationship and do it in an enriching way and not in a, as you said, like a coaching way or God or a guru way. Like that doesn't feel like that's any part of it. It's just what works for you, because this is what I'm doing right now. This is the thing that's getting in my. Here's the thread that I've pulled on my pants. How do I get rid of that? Oh, I know exactly how to do that. And someone tells me, and I'm like, shit. It's that easy? It's that easy? How does everyone else know this?
And this string unraveling my pants.
I think the best thing about Eden, regardless of all that hoobly joop that we just said, is that it literally is that simple. It's a forum, a place where it's encouraged to actually help each other out.
That's
not
exactly
talking about relationship and keeping it hidden and don't tell anybody your crap and don't say that, oh my God,
pretend
you got to fight, everything's perfect.
Right.
That's what goes on in the world. Eden is a safe place for you to share openly the shitty stuff and the great stuff and get support around.
Yeah, and be met and held and celebrated, even in the shit.
I think it's also that thing I was saying before, like the greatest way to be strong is to utilize the most resources, not to be the most resourced. That's what it
Totally.
does, right?
Vulnerability is the greatest power, isn't it?
And resources you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in wrapping it up then, like, because obviously we're still talking about like ninja stuff and well, Jedi rather was the word that we
Ninja's
used,
good
but
too.
ninja's good.
No. Now we're on to ninja. Now we're on to
Okay,
ninja.
so
Ninja Jedi.
can I be a Jedi
Unicorn
ninja?
Ninja Jedis. Wait, Unicorn Ninja Jedi Wizards.
Oh,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what my tattoo says. Magician. So it's only, I only had one truly, I promise. In closing, then, like for because my main point of getting you on board was that I'm really feeling for everyone out there who's having such a hard time holding it together.
Yeah.
And so, just some words of advice, some sage Yoda, if you wouldn't mind, just like sharing some of that with our friends.
Because you are sharing your resources.
Yeah, I love sharing my resources. One of my favorite things, and you are one of our greatest resources now.
Or Eden is.
Eden is.
Yeah.
That's my other
Exactly.
tattoo.
Yes.
Nice. Well, I think the first one would be don't kill your spouse.
Or do and be on our next show.
Yay!
That's my greatest Yoda advice.
That's pretty good.
Great, thanks for joining us.
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say don't try to. I mean, you spoke to it, Teresa. Don't try to do it alone. You know what you think is so awful in the moment, whether it's your own version of what you think is awful for yourself or what you think your partner's doing that's so awful. Guaranteed, it's just a pattern. And the more you can surround yourself with like-minded, forward-thinking, or people that are open-minded and people that are actually a great model of what you see as possible, the more you're going to actually transcend the places where you feel stuck or down in the dumps about yourself or your beloved or the partnership in general. So don't do it in a vacuum. Most people, as Rono shared, think that you need to just hold it all together and hold it all together and prove I got this. And then they're like melting down and having nervous breakdowns and beating. You know, you talked about domestic violence at the beginning of this.
Way too many prescription drugs, which
Yeah,
are great. They have their place, but like if that's all you're doing to get by in your relationship and in your life, it's like maybe you need to reevaluate.
Yeah.
So while isolation right now is more real than ever before and requested, you know, to some degree by the situation we're in, don't isolate. Really don't isolate. Find and don't get advice from single people. Don't talk to your single friends. Your single friends are not going to be able to help you see the level of commitment it takes to work it out. We had a conversation with a friend recently who's working really hard to get back together with a person that I think is very good for her. And I asked her, and she was like, oh, my friends were like, no, don't do it. I was like, well, who of your friends are in a committed partnership that are telling you this? And she was like, none of them. They're all single. I'm like, exactly. They're not going to understand because they're single. And great. We love the single people, call them pre-coupled, you know.
Nice.
Pre-coupled. but they're not in a relationship and they're working their way to relationship, but they don't have the same understanding of what it takes to be in a relationship. So surround yourself with people that can inspire and empower you, that you feel inspired by and empowered by in their relationship. Make sure to not isolate and, you know, hide yourself, and find other like-minded, open-minded couples that you can connect with.
Yeah, and if you have no idea where to find any of them, then
come to Eden. We'll help you connect.
And it's edenworld.org.
Yeah.
Edenworld.org.
You can find like
where relationships come to thrive. Yeah.
That's good. And we can testament to that though. But
which, I mean, we can't help but be somewhat of a testimonial. I'm not trying to shove it down anyone's
no,
throats.
but we're super excited.
Super excited. And if you did just need some kind of support, look, we've been to couples therapy. I don't get it. This has been something that is actionable on, you know, from first conversation. So if you just need
and it's
some
also
help,
given us the place to help others, right?
yeah,
Like it's not like
I've learned a lot from you both too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not like you're
it's beautiful.
joining our community to like exhaust it. You're joining our community to enrich it.
Yeah,
And part of that enrichment is that exchange with other couples.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well said.
You gotta watch this documentary.
Oh, it's so good. There's plenty of mentors and very deeply learned people in the art of relationship or in the art of just self-improvement or NLP, or the people who are involved in this group they can pretty much cover the whole gamut of whatever age you might need. So just to reach out to edenworld.org, put you in the right direction for some people who might be able to help you. And otherwise just meet these extraordinary people who are doing a really extraordinary thing with their life and helping people like us stay in love forever and ever and ever.
I love you.
I love you too.
You're an idiot.
I think it was important for you to be on this course.
It was really. I'm glad that I was part of this call. Yep.
Yeah. I'm so thrilled that you're doing this. Thank goodness for people like you out there to, be a stand for love and all the things that are authentic. Sorry, on mic. It's my first time podcasting, long time listener.
You can hear it totally fine.
Yeah. But it is champions of love, right?
Champions of love. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at the next Eden.
Mm-hmm.
And anything you want to say in closing before we leave?
I love you guys.
Oh, I love you too.
That'll do it. Speaking of long time love, this man I love very much, and I love you too so much. Honestly, I know that sounds silly, but just to have you here and be sharing this kind of project with you just fills my heart with joy. I wish nothing but love and joy and coupledom. If you're pre-coupled, he's just around the corner.
Or she's just around the corner. Or
right.
they are just around the corner.
Love is just around the corner.
Yep.
Love you so much. Thanks so much. Stay extraordinary. Never forget how extraordinary you are.
Extraordinaires. Now's the time to share. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Extraordinaires.